from the Crypt.
Welcome, friends and fiends, to the Cryptique Podcast. I'm your host, Kenny. I'm here with my co-host, Godden, and together we're here to watch and review every horrific and often hilarious episode of the legendary HBO anthology series, Tales from the Crypt. And here we are. Take two, Godden, take two.
Take two, unfortunately.
Yeah. You know what? We recorded this. No, I shouldn't say we recorded this. We discussed this episode already in our studios, and someone didn't hit the record button.
It was the Crypt Keeper. He was our guy.
The Crypt Keeper's fault. Oh my God. So yeah, we were up. We already talked about this episode, and we realized, a good way into it that wasn't even recording. So at this point, I you know what? To be honest though, Godden, I feel like I'm a real podcaster at this point, because every podcast you listen to, you always hear some story about them not hitting record and going through the whole thing and then having to do it all over again. So today, that's us, isn't it?
Yeah, going through the checklist of learning how to get into this.
That's right. So today we are on season 1, episode 3, Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone. And this premiered June 10th, 1989, which is the same day as the previous 2 episodes. So the very first time slot, the very first, the rollout, if you will, of this Tales from the Crypt was 3 episodes long. So basically an hour and a half episode. And this is the third one in that opening. So basically it's taking us 3 weeks to get through 1 day's worth of Tales from the Crypt. So here we are. This is the third and final episode of the premiere of Tales from the Crypt. Before we get into this, by the way, I want to remind you all, there are going to be spoilers. We're going to go into a detailed discussion of each scene. So if you haven't seen this yet, please watch it. This is a really good episode. I like it a lot. So make sure that you watch it on your own and then come back and listen to us go on about it. Let me go ahead and read the description from the ancient scrolls, inked in human blood, bound in human flesh, on the back of the DVD box set here. Shall I? Let's see here. Dig that cat. He's real gone. Shoot him. Drown him. Hang him. Zap him with a kajilion volts. Hey, it's a living. A man who receives a surgical graft of a cat's 9 lives becomes a carnival sensation with his dying act. And notice it doesn't say death-defying act. It actually says dying act. Because he doesn't defy death, does he?
He embraces it.
He embraces it. He actually dies. Yeah, he dies.
He fully dies, yeah.
What are your overall thoughts of this episode, Godden, before we get into it?
Well, I did enjoy this episode. It was one of those episodes where at first I didn't know how it was going to be. It kind of gave me like a weird feeling about it, but it kind of grew on me as the scenes, played out. And I, started to appreciate the funny art that they put and love they put into the production for the episode. It's a nice direction for it, honestly.
Yeah, I kind of spilled the beans a little bit earlier, but I do like this episode quite a bit. This is a pretty good one. And this is one of those episodes where you really start to feel the impact of having a different director for each episode, because this one is very unlike the other 2. All 3, I think, are different in tone, very much so. But this one, directorially, editing-wise, and writing-wise, is very, very different. It's very, very comical, the way it's done. And when I say comical, I mean funny, but also as like a comic book. Some of the transitions happen in a way such that it looks like you're looking at like a comic panel. So it's really fun. It's really fun in that way. So it's also a good episode. So that's good. So let's get into it here. So let's start with the Crypt Keeper intro. This one is one of the more chilling intros that we've had so far, definitely of the 3. We start with an over-the-shoulder shot of the Crypt Keeper, and it's almost as if we've arrived without him knowing it. That's the sense I got. We're over his shoulder. He doesn't see us, and he's basically lighting a candle and kind of getting the scene ready for us. He gets the book out. He gets all the stuff ready for us. And while he's doing it, you can hear him like wheezing, like he has some sort of labored breathing going on. So he's very, very grotesque in this moment. Very, very creepy moment, which I really appreciated. Finally, he sees us and he says, this little drama is about one of life's unexpected pleasures. Dying, that is. Most of us only get to do it once, and it's over before you can really enjoy it. But one man did get to die again, and he liked it so much he started doing it for a living. This is the story of Ulrich the Undying. So that's how he introduces the episode. And he opens up the book and we go along our way. And this is, from what I noticed, the only time that the Crypt Keeper does not state the title of the episode before the episode. So we don't know the title of the episode until it appears on screen.
Yeah, maybe it's just one of those segue moments that they didn't know how to like fit the title, because I don't know how you can fit "Dig That Cat, He's Real Gone," in a, I don't know. I don't know how you can phrase that into like a story.
Yeah.
Maybe none of it, they just decided to go with it. Maybe just it wasn't the best kind of a zinger.
Mm-hmm. Maybe the original story was called Ulrich the Undying. And then maybe they realized how much the cat had to do with it. So maybe they changed the name later. I don't know. But before we get into the episode, let's talk about the opening panel. On this opening panel, we've got some gentleman here in a tuxedo holding wads of cash. Behind him is an advertisement for Ulrich the Undying, who's pictured hanged. He's hanged from a noose, and he appears to be dead. And he's also in a suit or like a tuxedo. On a shelf above that advertisement is a cat. And that cat turns out to be very, very important to this episode. And the cat appears to be clawing at the rope that's hanging this man, almost as if he's cutting the rope to free the man from death, which I thought was a very interesting touch.
I'm trying to think, was it a black cat that's in the show? Because I don't think they, for the story.
I'm pretty sure it was a black cat. I think it was a black cat. Okay.
Not that would make that much of a difference, realistically. It would just been a nice little...
Right. But a black cat does have a lot of... there is a lot of...
stigma.
Yeah, stigma behind it, having it be a black cat. So I'm pretty sure they would have done it that way in the show. I think they did. I didn't notice they didn't.
Well, we'll go over that scene.
All right. So the scene opens up in like a circus kind of an area. And it starts off at the entrance. And when the scene opens up, the first thing you see is a cat that runs across the screen. So we open with a cat, which is very suiting here, very fitting. Then from there, we get a montage of just basic carnival activities. There's all kinds of sideshow people, the bearded lady, and that kind of stuff going on, and just people enjoying the overall circus and carnival and just whole festive atmosphere there, eating food and in line waiting for games and whatnots. Then we get the carnival host or the circus sideshow host, who says, gather round, folks, come see the show. 100% natural, nothing artificial, guaranteed, no pesticides, but perhaps a homicide. Tonight, a special show, 2 shows in one, the tragedy of death and the miracle of resurrection. So this character is probably my favorite character in the entire show. I love this guy. He reminds me a lot of Penn from Penn and Teller. Just a really big guy, just in stature, but also just very big in personality. So I like this guy a lot. I love his lines. I love every time he's on camera. He's a lot of fun. He's a great character.
He's also a great showman. He does his job very well.
He does his job very well. Absolutely. Yeah. I 100% agree with that. So after his wonderful speech, it cuts to the crowd, and you see that the crowd is, men, women, parents, children, grandparents, like all ages, all different types of people. So a lot of people are showing up for this show. And the plan is to have Ulrich be buried underground at the stroke of midnight. And he won't be dug up until noon the next day. So he's going to be buried for 12 hours, long enough for all of his oxygen to be depleted. And when they dig him up, he'll be dead. And when they're introducing this whole premise, there's lots of interesting jump cuts and like twangy sound effects that are going on. And this is what I'm talking about, where you can really start to see the difference in directing styles where there's just it's so dynamic the way it's filmed. And to me, it's really engaging. It's fun to watch it. You never know what's going to happen next. You're almost as confused watching it a second time as you were the first time, just because the jump cuts are so strange. And the jump cuts are done in a way where it jumps to something that just happened. So you'll see something happen and then there'll be a jump cut and then you'll see that thing happen again from like another angle. So it's very, very confusing when you watch it. I actually enjoy the way they do it.
Yeah, when I first saw it, I thought there was an issue with the recording I was watching it through. Like maybe there was they messed up. But I was like, and then I started to pick up like, oh, that was on purpose.
Yeah, very purposeful.
They got me.
It's definitely the most unique editing style we've seen so far. So it's very loud, of course. We got the circus showman who's being, making a show out of this. We got the crowd cheering. We got lots of things going on. And suddenly, when the coffin lid shuts, we're on the inside and it's silent. And Ulrich, the Undying, lights a candle, which creates a fantastic underglow from below, creating this eerie look on his face. He looks right in the camera, which, by the way, this is the second time we've had a character break the fourth wall and talk directly to us. And it's only episode 3, so it's already happened twice.
Right.
And it turns out that, even though it was done a couple of times fairly early, it's not really done much in Tales from the Crypt. I'm trying to think of another episode that might have had something like this. These might be the only 2. There may be more, but it's not done enough to make it anything that's memorable. So it's interesting that they have 2 so early on and then really not again.
No, that was unique.
So Ulrich looks right at the camera and he says, when they dig me up, I'll be dead, just like all those bastards want me to be. But I won't stay that way. And he smiles, a big grin. And he says, I remember the day it all began. And then he basically starts the story of how this all happened. So what we just saw was the ending. So
is this when the star transition comes in? Or which transition comes in from the coffin scene to the past?
I don't remember. I didn't make a note of that transition that happened between the 2 of those. There were a few. I
think it's a star, right?
There were a few kind of wacky transitions that definitely happened that I did notice. It was very hard not to notice, so I wrote those down. But for this one, I don't remember there being an interesting one. There may have been, but I just might have missed it. But this next scene is in like a dirty alley, and Ulrich, who we just met, who seemed to be pretty well off, is at this point, homeless and sleeping in a box. And he's approached by a man in a suit, and the man says to him, how would you like to be rich? And he holds up a huge wad of cash. And he entices Ulrich with all this money to be part of a small experiment. What might that experiment be?
Who knows?
Who knows?
Who knows?
This is where we get that wacky kind of a star transition where it zooms in through this wacky jagged edge, kind of a comic panel into a laboratory. And in this laboratory, there's like the doctor's looking at a computer screen with a bunch of scans of cats. And he says, This is, if you pardon the term, a cat scan. I like that.
I do like that too.
So the doctor zooms in and highlights a very specific part of the cat's brain. This being the part of the brain that reanimates the cat after death, giving the cat 9 lives. So he's basically a scientist who discovered how the cat has 9 lives. So his plan is to extract this piece out of the cat and implant it into Ulrich, giving him 9 lives. And I love when the doctor proposes doing this. The Ulrich says, wait a minute, what if it don't work? And the doctor responds, if it doesn't work, you'll have no complaints.
It's just that simple.
Yeah, he'll be dead. What difference would it make? You'll have no complaints.
He'll just get another person.
Right. And basically at this point, right, Ulrich really does have nothing to lose. So why not go for it? Like, he's living on the streets. He's an alcoholic. There's not much going for him. So, of course he'll be willing to go under the knife for a bunch of money.
But I could have sworn he had second thoughts when he was looking around and he sees that one big syringe, that one big needle, and he's like, oh, right. Once he saw the actual tools that were going to be used, he started to say, wait a minute, doc. I think that's when he actually says the line, what if this don't work? Oh, yeah, actually, maybe, yeah. That might have been it.
So from there, we get a jump cut to Ulrich, waking up with a start. And he says, Doc, did it work? At this point, he's got like the bandage over his head. He's in like the full, patient gown. And I like the doctor's response when he asks if it worked. He says, absolutely. Fabulous. Fantastic. You now have 9 lives of this poor cat. And this poor cat is lying underneath a bloody towel. So he managed to take that whatever piece out of the cat and implant it into Ulrich. And Ulrich doubts it. He says, wait a minute, did it really work? And the doctor tests whether or not it worked in the most efficient way you can think of. He pulls out a gun and shoots Ulrich in the head.
It gets me, honestly, every time when there's like a random cut to like a gun being drawn. It's like, wow, things just escalate just like that, huh?
Right, that escalated quickly, didn't it? Yeah, and we get some more flashy jump cuts, and and he wakes up again just fine. So it worked. At this point, Ulrich's ready to just take the money and go and just have just a bender and just go drink till his heart's content and live out his 9 lives. Or 8 lives now, right? Because he was shot in the head.
Yeah, and, lost one, yeah.
Yeah, and the doctor offers him even more money. So, of course, Ulrich's in. That's all Ulrich had to hear was more money. So, so the next scene, we're at the carnival or at the circus, and the doctor is talking with that circus host, that circus announcer. And basically, he became Ulrich's agent. And he says, look, if you hire my friend Ulrich here, he can give you a show like you've never seen before. He'll actually die and come back to life. Well, of course, that gets this circus guy's attention. So he hires him. And I noticed that when he gets the okay, the circus announcer walks away and we're left with the doctor here. And he grins very maniacally with like flashes of light behind him, which could be like lightning. So I was wondering, like, what is up with this guy? Is he, what are his intentions? At this point, you start to maybe doubt his intentions because of, that lingering shot where he's just kind of really grinning in a kind of an evil doctor kind of a way.
Yeah, maybe he's just so proud of what he's done. He's like, oh, I'm about to make more money. This is like the ultimate way to, capitalize on it.
Yeah. Well, he just spent all of his money, right? He just spent a bunch of money paying Ulrich to do this experiment. So now I guess he has to make his money back. So here we go. So the next scene is the very first carnival show featuring Ulrich the Undying. And we have Ulrich in a giant tank. The plan is to fill the tank with water, drown Ulrich, and then bring him back to life. Okay. So the carnival host has given this speech, much like the original scene where he was introduced. He gave a very similar speech. And I like this scene a lot because really that carnival announcer is the only one who has any energy in the scene. He's totally enthused. Yeah. He's very, very excited, but the audience is just like so bored. They don't know what to expect. They don't know what's going on. They're just kind of sitting there just watching. Ulrich's in the tank, so he can't hear anything because the tank's sealed all around. And there's a great moment where the carnival announcer goes, "Are you ready?" And Ulrich looks over. He's like, "Huh?" Because he can't hear anything from inside the tank. He has to ask again, "Are you ready?" And he goes, "Oh, yeah, I'm ready." Like totally uninterested in anything that's going on. I thought that was a funny moment. So the water starts filling the tank very, very slowly. And as it's filling, we get introduced to the assistant, the very lovely assistant, who, of course, at this point seems to have the hots for Ulrich. She says, "Do you want to get dinner later?" And Ulrich still can't hear. So he's like, "What?" So she takes out lipstick and writes on the tank, "Diner later." So Ulrich nods. Yeah, he'll have some dinner later. And she shouts back, "After you're dead, I'll wait here." I like this character too. She's really, really ditzy and like just the funniest of ways. She's good.
She is so ditzy, yeah.
So when the water fills up, Ulrich is completely submerged, and there's almost like a moment of lucidity where he realizes, "Oh crap, right, I'm dying." So he starts to panic. He starts to kind of struggle, and he has like a moment of panic and fear, and he's struggling inside the tank. And I love the carnival announcer's response. He goes over to him and he's like, speed it up, like hurry up and die already. I'm trying to put on a show here. So Ulrich ends up drowning in the tank. And once he drowns, the carnival announcer makes the announcement that he's going to be in there for a whole another hour. And we get a montage of the audience just being completely bored waiting for this to go on. So the audience is still not on board with what's going on. After the hour, I love how the doctor checks his vitals to see if he's dead or not. Did you notice this?
Yeah. Yeah, with a stethoscope, he just pulls it out and the water's just pressured, like just spewing out of the ear canals with the stethoscope.
Yeah, the doctor pulls.
Yes,
he pulls out. It's a good gag. He pulls out. Yeah, and the water comes pouring out of the stethoscope. That's good. I also like that when the water is going down, Ulrich kind of leans forward because he's kind of floating in the tank, but he leans forward and his face smashes up against the front of the tank and just like slides down the front of the tank slowly, making that scratching sound. Oh, that was really good. That was a good moment too. At this point, there's like a long delay, right? It's kind of unclear or vague about how long it takes Ulrich to come back after he's been killed. Sometimes it's pretty quick, sometimes it takes a while, and in this instance, it took a while. So nobody thinks it worked, and the carnival announcer is shouting "Resurrection, resurrection!" and nothing's happening, and the audience starts walking away. And as
Corley joins in,
right? And just as everybody leaves the arena, Ulrich springs back to life and everybody comes back inside and starts applauding. And he agrees to take his lovely assistant, Coralie, out to Italian, and he's buying.
I got a little rhyme in there. He went out for Italian, he's buying.
Going out for Italian, who's buying? Ulrich's buying. Where do you think they went? Olive Garden?
I hope not, but yeah, probably.
It is just his first show. He hasn't made a fortune yet.
No.
So this next scene has Ulrich following the doctor as the doctor's counting all the money. And Ulrich, we learn in this part, only gets 40% of the money. 60% of the money goes to the doctor for quote unquote longevity research. So Ulrich's only making part of the money that they earn.
Yeah, because he just takes like a bit of it usually. He just takes like $1 or $2 from like the wad of cash, and who knows if that even is 40%. He might be taking less because he's not actually fully making sure how much he's getting.
Right, he does. He just reaches over, grabs a bill of whatever happens to be on the top, and just kind of leaves. And in this case, he took a bill and he went on his date with Coralie.
Mm-hmm.
So the next scene is Carnival show number 2, and it's the hanging. So this point here, before the actual hanging, we see that a lot more people are showing up. It's an actual sold out crowd, and the audience is full. And Ulrich is there in a full like cowboy outfit at the gallows with a noose around his neck. And oh, but who should be tasked with pulling the lever? But his lovely assistant, Coralie. Oh,
Coralie. And she's just like, I don't want to do it. I can't pull it.
Right. She did not want to pull that lever. So she was protesting pulling the lever, killing her new boyfriend. So he actually had to reach over and pull the lever for her. And he dropped and was hanged. And I love so this is a moment where, so the last death, he took him a while to come back. But this one, he came back right away. And he had to struggle to get himself loose because he didn't want to lose another life. So he's struggling to do that, but at the same time, Coralie's so happy he's back that she's trying to hug and kiss him. So it just created like a really interesting, funny situation there. Very, very affectionate but dangerous situation.
And then after the hanging, like it goes to the next moment where he just has all wrapped up in bandages and he's talking in a much higher voice, or like a more strained voice.
I love that moment. I love how they had that continuity in there. How he was hanged, and then the next scene, his vocal cords being crushed, right? He had like that really high pitch, raspy voice. And even his quote in his high pitched voice, "Hey doc, there's an awful lot of money in dying, isn't there?" And the doctor insists as long as he gets his percentage. So the doctor is still out to collect money from Ulrich. So at this point, we learn that it does hurt Ulrich to get killed. It's painful to die, and it's painful when you come back. So he puts in a lot of effort to make this happen. So he makes some plans. He makes some arrangements to get more money from the doctor. And that's where the next scene comes in. It's a very rainy night and they're out for a drive. And in this moment, during this drive, I actually like the doctor in this moment. The doctor has some really interesting insights. He says, you can kill a man by destroying less than 1% of his body. He can be 99% healthy and dead. Isn't that amazing? He goes on, that's why you're so amazing, Ulrich, because your body fixes itself and it's going to make us both a lot of money. And the doctor made a mistake here. He let Ulrich drive. And Ulrich responds, Doc, you're half right about that. See, it's going to make me a lot of money. Ulrich then speeds up and crashes into a brick wall, killing them both.
Well, yeah, because before that, the doc was like, you're insane, can't do that? That's murder. He's like, don't worry, Doc. I'll be there with you. Or like, I'll be there as well.
Right.
So it's not murder.
It's not murder. I'll be dead too.
Yeah, I'll be dead too.
So the very next scene is another death scene. And Ulrich is planning on being electrocuted. And this one is the first one where we get some audience interaction. So there's going to be a lucky person from the audience who gets to actually pull the switch. And I love the person who it was. It was remember that little old lady. It's me. It's me.
She was so happy to get picked.
Oh, she was so happy to get picked. Yeah. Hey, wouldn't that have been interesting if it was Niles who got picked?
Yeah, but then would that still be an anthology if they had crossovers that early on?
Yeah,
it would
be
be
interesting.
Nice,
yeah, it would be interesting. It would mess with that whole like being in part of the same world. But I just thought it would be interesting if it was Niles.
A small little gag.
Yeah, yeah. And since they were all aired in the same night, a lot of people would have got that. A lot of people would have saw that.
That's fair. Yeah, that would have been nice actually.
So, right before he's killed, he says, I'd like to dedicate this death to the memory of Dr. Emil Manfred, my dear friend, which was very cold-blooded, I felt.
Right.
To murder your friend and then dedicate your next performance to that murdered friend.
But in the middle of him giving that like little saying for his dear friend, one of the people in the crowd just says, shut up and cook him already.
I love that part too.
Just like cuts him.
Shut up and cook him.
No one cares.
And they ask if the old lady's ready, and she says, you bet your ass I'm ready. Go for it, Grandma. The whole moment was so funny. So after this death, we also learned that, some resurrections take a very long time. And this is one that took a really, really long time. So much so that he ends up in the morgue. So the next scene, we are in a morgue with a kind of a mortician, like looking over all the different bodies that are there in the morgue. They're all kind of covered up in blankets. And it's kind of a quiet scene, but it gets interrupted when the door gets shoved open from behind and the entire carnival crowd comes running in to save Ulrich, right? And then Ulrich suddenly jumps up off the table, and this created a really funny moment. The Undertaker or the mortician in that moment, like, just totally has a complete meltdown, kind of off to the side, while Ulrich and Coralie are like embracing each other. So it was a really funny moment.
Yeah, I mean, you can't blame him though. He's been, for however long he's been a mortician, and that would give me a heart attack too, honestly.
Right?
And
yeah.
When he falls in the back, like it's so goofy.
He did. He like completely fell over all of his equipment. Oh my gosh, he had a good reaction. I like that moment a lot. Reaction. So so at this point, Ulrich's worried that if he was embalmed in that moment, then who knows what would happen next? Would he be able to be resurrected? Would it be painful? He doesn't know. So he has quote unquote special arrangements made. So this next scene, shot through the heart. This is one of the one of the next death scenes here.
Definitely one of my more favorite scenes from this episode.
Yeah, do you want to take us through it?
Yeah, sure. There was a lot going on, honestly, with this scene, because he comes out in an all white outfit. It seemed like, if I remember, I think it was something along the lines of like a cowboy outfit as well, like the one he had when he got hung at the gallows.
Right.
And yeah, it's like those. Like, if you ever done those carnival games where you shoot at like objects that just spin around when it's like panning left to right, and you shoot it with like an airsoft gun or something, and it knocks out like those cardboard prints. It's one of those he's hiding behind, and then it's like a bear with a cutout heart, and he's just hiding behind the bear, and that's like the gimmick of the of this little act. And the contestants were pretty funny who participate, because the first guy, he was on a date, he was a sailor, it seemed like he was really up for it, but turns out the fee is $1,000, and he did not have that kind of income, I guess. And well, his day was also a little upset about that as well. But I like the second guy, the nerdy guy who comes up, because not only is he just completely just new to like handling like anything that could kill a person, like a big crossbow, realistically. The fact that his name was Arnold Schwarzenegger was also a really nice little.
That's right. They checked his ID and he was Arnold Schwarzenegger.
because this guy could afford it, and he gave a credit card, and that's how they were able to check out his name. But the first two contestants weren't able to do anything because he completely misses. I think it goes to like the far left or the bottom, just nowhere near Ulrich, unfortunately. And so the showman was trying to hype it up again and say, okay, who else can give it a try, can give it a go? And of course, I assume this is like a military dad, realistically. But by the way, he's like acting, and he has a cigar in his mouth, and he really wants his little pudgy son to like man up.
Yeah,
like he seemed like he was 10 years old.
Yeah, this
and
guy,
it seemed like
this man was very, very like macho, cigar in the mouth, mustached, like very, very macho man.
Yeah, I enjoyed his lines because as they were walking, I was like, "Come on, son, you can do it. If people can kill rabbits, you can kill a man." It's like if you fully do this, I'll sign you up to your first NRA membership. It's like, okay, like he's just fully backing him for him to like really grow up, I guess, at that moment. And the whole entire time, his son was just like against it. Like, I don't want to kill him, Dad. That's not what I want to do. And then, I think it was one of your favorite lines. The dad just says, "Don't be a sissy, son."
Right, he tells his son, "Don't be a sissy."
It's like, "Don't be a sissy. I've been killing people for years."
That's it right there. That's my favorite line from this man. This poor kid. "I don't want to do it, Dad. I don't want to do it. I don't want to do it. Come on, son. I've been killing people for years."
If I could do it, you could do it. But I forget if he took the shot or not. But if he did take the shot, I'm most likely positive he missed.
Oh no, the kid. Because, he did. The kid did miss because then the dad blamed him on doing it on purpose.
On purpose, right? He's like, "You did that, yeah." He's like that's just sad. Like the kid didn't want to participate initially, and he got pushed into it.
Right. Poor kid.
And now he's getting blamed for it. But I do like how fast he goes to the fourth contestant. He's like, "Do you take checks?" It's like, "Yes, we do, sir. We just need a form of ID." And then they list off like his credentials, like, state fair archery champion of 87. It's just like, he just so happens to be a person there. And yeah, as now he's like the best candidate to be the shooter. Everyone's like getting hyped up. He's taking his time. He make sure he lines up everything. And he does take the shot, and it goes right through Ulrich's chest.
Right. The state fair archery champion of 1987 is not going to miss.
He's not going to miss. He is a champion, And it was kind of funny because they pay $1,000 to shoot the guy, but then what do you get out of it? I guess just the bolt itself that has all the blood all over it.
Yeah, they rip the arrow out of Ulrich's heart and give it to the contestant who won. And the way the contestant held it was like he held it in so much reverence. He was almost like religious the way he was holding it up and like just, "Oh my gosh, look what I have."
Yeah, his reaction made it seem like he would frame it. Just instead of like a deer head, it would just be the one arrow.
Right, it'd be the one arrow. And that really rhymes, I feel like, with the first episode, where the first episode was talking about how much we enjoy death and causing death and watching death. And this, I feel like, mirrored that, in that when you can actually kill somebody and then you get the arrow that killed him, and now suddenly that has like some sort of intrinsic value to the person who did it. That's kind of dark. I like that.
Yeah, little memento.
Right. There's also a moment, I don't know if you noticed this, that when Ulrich gets shot, just before he falls to the ground, there's a moment, like a slow motion moment, where he looks at Coralie and the carnival announcer, and Coralie is just holding wads of cash, like just like grinning ear to ear. But the carnival announcer is like very somber in this moment. He crosses himself. He crosses over his body, which I thought was an interesting gesture. You know, I think that was one of the only times when you really see the carnival announcer acknowledge the fact that, yeah, he's dying. Like, this is a moment of death. So that was an interesting thing to see. I also looked up while you were going through that. Okay, $1,000 today would be $2,579.02.
Wait, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it's 36 years. 36 years ago. So it's over doubled.
You know, skyrockets to like 1,000 something.
Well, let's check.
Like
this comic
$5,000.
originally came out in the 50s. So let's check 1950. $1,000 in 1950 would be $13,000. All right. So yeah, that was that death. And the next scene, we get the payoff from that last scene in the morgue, which I like this part too. So the police come and everybody comes to kind of bag up Ulrich, the dead body, and take him away. And Coralie comes up and says, we have special arrangements with the deceased, you know, to keep the body. And the cop doesn't care. He says, doesn't matter. And so she holds up a wad of cash to give it to the cop as a bribe. And he holds it and he says, this is more money than I make in a year.
Yeah.
Can I help you move the body? I just like the idea that she gave him so much money that not only was he willing to turn a blind eye and let them keep the dead body, but he's willing to help them move it.
Yeah, that just shows that bribery is one of the main forms of police corruption right there, you know, just like that.
Yeah, I wonder how much of that is true. I wonder how many people have dead bodies stored in their home because they paid off a cop to turn a blind eye.
If it's good money, if it's good enough, more than how they make it in a year, I'm sure they might have.
Mm-hmm. So the next scene, we get a shot of them in their trailer, of Ulrich in his trailer, and he's just completely living the lavish life in this carny world here. He's like dressed in this like nice silk robe, sitting on a comfy couch, drinking champagne. Clearly the fame is going to his head. So in this moment, Ulrich offers the idea of going on a vacation with Coralie. And while he's talking to her, he's, you know, kind of digging through his things, and she's behind him, and she basically is planning on killing him and taking all of his money. But the way she goes about this, I thought was really funny. She reaches into her purse and she pulls out a comb, and she looks at the comb and she puts it back, and then she pulls out a knife and she literally stabs him in the back to kill him, takes all of his money and leaves and says, enjoy the rest of your lives.
It definitely is more comedic with their takes and the tone of, you know, how they die and whatnot.
Yeah, if anything's dark in this episode, it's not dark for very long. Nothing stays too dark for very long. Very, very funny. There's probably more jokes in this movie than there are scares and anything else that's like grotesque. A very, very fun slapstick story. I wonder though, do you think that Coralie was planning on killing him all along to take his money, like from the get-go? Or because he's so arrogant in this scene, I also wonder, did she just get like fed up with him and just killed him because she got tired of him being so arrogant?
I think it had something to do with the last scene as well, when she realized that she could just pay off somebody with all that money. Maybe just it finally got in her head like, oh, maybe I could just steal all this money and just live my life. Because I don't think, I mean, she's too ditzy to be planning like a murder like that. But I think, yeah, she might have just gotten fed up as well, like with his just fame getting to him. And maybe she's not getting enough attention anymore or something like that.
Yeah, the fame absolutely got to his head. And this scene really shows that. I was thinking about this too, and I thought, you know, if she really was out to get him just for the money, then she might have waited for a few more shows and you got more money to kill him later. You know, killing him later, you'd get more money. But then, you know, maybe she just couldn't handle being around him anymore. He just got so full of himself. So that was basically the end of Coralie. She's no longer in the episode. She's hightailed it with all of Ulrich's money, which is too bad because I did like her as a character. She was really, really funny.
She was great.
All right. So the next scene, we get Ulrich's final plan, his final show. Ulrich realizes he's got one death left. So I've listed them all here. When he first wakes up after the surgery, the doctor shoots him in the head to prove him that it worked. That was death number 1. Then he gets drowned in the giant tank. That's death number 2. Then he gets the hanging. Then he's hanged. That's death number 3. Death number 4 is him driving into the brick wall with the doctor. So death number 4 had him kill his doctor. Death number 5 was the electrocution that the old granny was lucky enough to pull the lever. Death number 6 was shot through the heart by the archery champion of 1987. Yeah. Death number 7 would just happen. He was killed by his assistant. So he's got one death left, and he's planning on making as much money as he can for this. So he basically strong arms that carnival host into letting him have 100% of the profits. And I think this is actually going to be a lot of money because there's going to be 2 shows out of it, right? Because he's going to be buried at midnight. That's one show. Okay. Then he's going to be dug up at noon the next day, and that's another show. So I really do think that he's going to make quite a bit of money from this show. So once he,
I think so too.
Yeah, once he strong arms the that carnival showman into giving him 100%, the carnival guy asks, all right, but how do you live with yourself? And Ulrich says, I don't. I like that moment as well.
He doesn't live with himself.
He does not.
I wonder why.
He does not live with himself. Absolutely not. All right. So the next scene here is the first scene of the episode. We have the carnival announcer giving the same speech. Ulrich is going to be buried alive at midnight and then dug up the next day. And we're basically back in the coffin with Ulrich. And he says, I'm set for life. And all because of that poor little kitty. Or the dead little kitty. Too bad he had to die. And then he has a sudden realization that the very first death of his 9 lives was not his death, but the cat's death. So the cat, right, gave up its life for Ulrich. So Ulrich's first death was actually the second death. So Ulrich already is on his 9th life. And I love when he comes to this realization and starts to panic. We get a shot of the candle that he's been holding the whole episode burn out. The candle burns out and Ulrich's shouting, let me out, I can't breathe. And that candle burning out is such a great visual indication that there's no more oxygen in the coffin. So that was a really, really good way to wrap that up. And then when we go back to the surface, I love how you have those grave diggers who think they hear some screaming out in a distance. And he says, did you hear something? And the other guy responds, nah, must have been a cat. That's a good moment there. I love that one there.
It was a good moment, yeah. Poor Ulrich.
Yeah. And the final scene is of a cat sitting on Ulrich's final grave. So Ulrich, after surviving numerous deaths and causing death, is finally buried underground. Oh, what irony. So,
do you think?
Yeah,
I was just gonna say, do you think the doctor knew that the cat's death was a +1, or did you also believe that when he transferred, Ulrich had all 9 lives?
Oh, interesting. Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, if the doctor knew and was playing it as if he had 9 lives, then the doctor would have known that his final death would have been his last death, or excuse me, his 8th death would have. No, his 8th life would have been his 9th life. Yeah. If the doctor had known that, then he could have kept all the winnings at that point, right? He could have really, really swept up. That would have been really nice. Yeah, I wonder if the doctor knew.
Maybe he did. He just got killed off too early.
He just got killed off too early. We'll never know. Oh, that's interesting. That's a good point. So the Crypt Keeper closes up here, and the Crypt Keeper here delivers my favorite shriek of the week, my favorite pun. He says, dying for dollars could have been a popular game show. They could have put it between Wheel of Misfortune and the newly dead game. And he gives us his very familiar cackle when he's finished with that. So the Crypt Keeper is starting to grow into who we are very familiar with that very, very traditional Crypt Keeper cackle.
The John Casser cackle.
That's right. So as a whole, what did you think?
Yeah, like I said in the beginning, I didn't know where it was going, like in terms of how it was being shot, but I definitely it grew on me, and I started to appreciate, its artistic value. Like, it was goofy. It was just a fun ride. It's just one of the ones where you don't take it. Like, they weren't trying to make it too serious, but it was just a simple story about a guy who had 9 lives and he miscounted.
Yeah, very, very good. I like this a lot. I like the twist. I like the comedy throughout it all. I like the slapstick nature of just the episode. I like the editing. All of it is really good. I was trying to think of this compared to other horror tropes, and I got very, very classic horror trope vibes. The whole taking a piece out of another animal and putting it into yourself for prolonged life really reminded me of like Dracula and vampires. So, and the fact that he ends inside of a coffin. Like, it's very, 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 very Count Dracula vampire-esque. Very interesting parallels there. And the doctor giving him this immortality made me think of Frankenstein, especially in that scene in the carnival when he talked that carnival announcer into hiring him. When you see that flash of light behind him like lightning and then him grinning, it made me think, oh, this is very, very Frankenstein. So I like very, very classic horror feel, very, very gothic classic horror feel to it. I liked it a lot. All right. And that is going to bring us to ratings, Godden. Let's rate this beast of an episode here. I'm going to tell you right now, this is a very, very good episode. This is one that I would absolutely recommend to any new coming Tales from the Crypt fan. This is one that I would tell them to put on their list and watch. Very, very classic episode. Lots of fun. Very entertaining watch. I give this a 5. 5 arrows to the heart.
5 arrows. Wow. That's pretty high up. Unfortunately, I won't go as high, but it is a solid piece for me. So I would give it a 4. 4 hangmans, just to be different. Because it didn't. I couldn't give it a 5. Like I said, it wasn't something that like really made me like it didn't grab me as much it probably it could have. But it's just because that second episode we watched, it's just hard to top. Like that is still like a 5 for me. And if I'm basing my 5s off that episode, it's like it's gonna be hard to get close to it.
Yeah, no, I
4 for me.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, because the second episode was very. We ought to make maybe a different tier system, a different grade system.
Yeah, maybe.
Is for all the reasons episode 2. For all the boxes that gets checked to earn a 5, this one checks all those same boxes. It's just maybe with a thicker marker, maybe episode 2, I would check it, but it hits all the same notes. The entertainment value, the editing is a lot of fun. The pacing is good. The jokes are good. The twist is good. So I like it a lot. Well, all right. That brings us to Horrespondence. I want to take a moment at the end of each of our podcasts to talk about you and our listeners. So we got a message from Ben Fletcher. This is through YouTube. Ben Fletcher 8100. So Ben writes, I never watched Tales from the Crypt as a kid, but I did watch Grisly Tales for Gruesome Kids. He calls it a similar-ish show. I had never heard of Grisly Tales for Gruesome Kids. Never heard of the show. So, Ben, thanks for the recommendation. I watched a couple of episodes, and I'm telling you, this is a good show. This is a good show. I watched 2 episodes. It's basically episode 1 and 2. I watched The New Nanny and The Spaghetti Man. So if you've never seen this show, it's a cartoon. It's an animated show, and it's a kid's show. It's narrated by kind of a quirky host, similar to the Crypt Keeper, but he's human, and he's,
okay. There's
nothing really menacing about. I guess he's a little bit menacing for a kid's show, but not as menacing as the Crypt Keeper. But it's narrated. Basically, I think I haven't watched a lot of episodes, only 2. But what it seems like is really awful, mean-spirited kids get their comeuppance in some way, shape, or form. So in The New Nanny, these kids are just absolutely awful to their nanny. They hit her. They They torture her. They do all kinds of mean things to her. And then they lie, which is the worst thing that they do. They lie to their parents and say that it's all the nanny's fault. And the nanny hits the kids. So the nanny gets fired. And the parents can't afford new nannies. So they have to hire animals to watch their kids.
Wait.
They hire a snake, and they hire a spider, and they hire an alligator. These animals end up scaring the kids into confessing that they were the ones who were mean to their nannies, and it was all their fault. So that was a very, very cute episode. And the next episode I watched is something called The Spaghetti Man, which is I felt like this one was a lot darker. This was about an awful kid who would not eat his breakfast. And no matter what his parents did, this kid just would refuse to eat his breakfast. So there's a monster called the Spaghetti Monster. And what it does is it turns defiant little kids into pasta. So this kid tries to hide in the in the bathroom, and the spaghetti monster turns into a shadow and goes underneath the door and captures this kid, and he's never seen from again. And he was such an awful kid that his parents don't even notice that he's gone. But the parents do eat lasagna for dinner.
So it's alluding that you got turned to a lasagna.
Right, you got turned into some lasagna. That's right.
That's darker, yeah.
Hey.
That's a darker twist.
Don't get any anya with the lasagna. So this is a show that I'm going to keep watching. Ben, I appreciate your recommendation. Very, very good. I enjoyed the show. Episodes are about 10 minutes apiece, so you could just throw it on. I watched mine on YouTube. I found them on YouTube there. So that's that. Thank you, Ben, for the recommendation. And that was Dig That Cat. He's Real Gone. Thanks for listening. Our next episode is going to be Season 1, Episode 4, Only Sin Deep. If you want to follow along with us, make sure you watch that before next week so we can talk about that together. And if you leave us any comments, we'll be sure to read them right here on our podcast. So keep reaching out. We definitely love hearing from you. Thanks for the people who did reach out so far. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. However you consume this podcast, we appreciate you. My name is Kenny, and I can be found. What's that?
I don't know. I just butchered that outro.
My name's Kenny. I can be found on YouTube and Twitch through Too Bad About Kenny, both TOO Bad About Kenny as well as the number 2 Bad About Kenny. I stream video games on Twitch as well as do movie reviews on YouTube. So look for me on both platforms. Godden, where can you be found?
At the moment, they can only find me on Twitch. I occasionally stream my video games whenever I have time available, because I'm committed to the podcast. So they can find me on Twitch at UAPP06, which is just my name upside down. And you'll see me play numerous kinds of games whenever I'm on, and I'll usually take suggestions once I finish a run through, and I'm looking for something else to play afterwards. Yeah,
Godden, you and I streamed a game together. We did the Division 2.
We did. We were saving Brooklyn. That's what it was.
Yeah, the last time we streamed together, we were playing some Division 2, playing Battle for Brooklyn. So if you're into the Division games, or just in general, just into watching streams of games, check us out on Twitch. I'm also available on YouTube. Anyway, that's that. Everybody, I want you to be safe out there and enjoy your week. We'll see you all next Monday. So take care of yourselves. Good night.
Well, how was that for a scream, boys and ghouls?